So I have so much green in my life. So basically, I realized that um, just catching you up in case you don't know, I have to pretty much make all of my food. With that said, I make my own sauces and things, very kind of just commonplace things like marinara sauce. Anytime I want to have like pasta or pizza or lasagna or something like that, I make my own barbecue sauce and salsa because again, I want to have salsa and a quesadilla or dip some chips or something like that. Like I have to make all of that stuff. But I realized that I make a lot of green sauces. And I didn't really think about that. So I'm not going to be showing all of that in that video today, but the two main recipes that I'm going to be looking at today are both green. So just kind of like a quick little rundown in the process of me doing like recipe testing over the past 2 or 3 years, in the process of me trying to write and release this book. I wish I could eat that, which I have an update on that for my Patreon community, but it's not going the way I planned, but it's not like bad. I'll get into that later. Anyway, um, I did actually develop an original recipe that has been like just been like a game changer for me, plus the fact that other people really like it too. And that is my chutney verde, previously known as the green sauce. We still refer to it as the green sauce, but I wanted to give it like a distinct name because green sauce could really be anything, especially once I realized that I make so many green sauces, which has brought us back around full circle. So, like in this video alone, I'm going to be making a version of pesto. Actually, in the book that I was trying to put out, I wish I could eat that. I do this exact recipe, only I replace one of the elements, and I'll mention it later what that is. But that's actually something that I do pretty common, which I'll get to all of that later. So I have a pesto recipe that's going to be in this video. I think I do my dill salad chicken spread, which I did a short for this already where I showed me putting together it with like a sandwich, but then I'm actually going to be making the sauce in this video. And the dill salad chicken spread is really more of kind of like a yellowish color, but it has so much green in it. I consider it one of my green sauces. So those are the two that you're going to see in this video, but I already know that I filmed footage for like my version of guacamole. So like that's coming. And then I also have like a green sauce that I make that's like a pasta sauce. Whenever, because sometimes you don't always want to have marinara or Alfredo, you want something different. And this is my green pasta sauce. So I know that that's going to be coming down the pike soon. Um, I do actually also have like an herb sauce that I make where I've collect herb stems and leaves and stuff like that. Some of my free, some of my dry. Just anyway, once I get like a collection of like these herbs and stuff, I make a sauce out of it. So like I have all of these different green sauces that I didn't really realize until I sat down to start trying to look at this video. With all that said, let's just kind of go ahead and get into it. So I've already kind of gone through some of this footage for your benefit. um, Edited, sped it up just so we wouldn't be sitting here watching all of the nuances of me trying to put together a recipe. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you guys kind of know the drill. So there's no point in just kind of doing all of that stuff like over and over and over again. I will state that you may see at some point me like moving my Kindle around in the video because I'm listening as I'm cooking because that's like how I have to do life. I can't, my everything is just so compacted and like crazy, like not in a bad way, but this is just like my reality. So if I want to read a good book, unfortunately sometimes I have to listen to it. And so that's just going to be happening in the background. That's more for my readers, but just wanted to point that out. So with that said, I guess we'll just go ahead and start looking at the already kind of edited and sped up footage. I'll be giving my commentary, and I do believe we are going to start with my almond pesto spread. And like I said, I will talk about that substitute ingredient as we kind of get to it. Hold on a second. Let me, I didn't think about this whole volume issue. So let me turn off some of the sound because nobody wants to hear that. You don't want to hear all that. All right. Okay, here we go. So I'm setting up the food processor right now because that's gonna be very handy for what I'm gonna be making. This is a Ninja. Um, I'll leave a link below if you're interested. I do have like a regular like blender, but it's not really strong enough for most of the stuff that I do. There are my raw almonds that are going to go into this recipe. Um, I use my blender for actually to make like smoothie. That's pretty much all it's used for, where I use my food processor for all kinds of stuff. So as you see, I'm trying to adjust things. This is a 1/4 cup measure that I'm starting with. These are whole almonds. They're raw. Clearly, you can see they've got like the skin on them and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just using the little bread pan to kind of like crush them up. Um, it's not like 100% necessary to do that, especially, you know, if you do have the ones that are already kind of pre-roasted, the skin is off of them, all that kind of stuff. But because these are raw and I am, you know, going to be, you know, putting them in the food processor, I feel like it's just going to blend better if I do this step first. This is just a pre-step. You could skip it if you wanted to, but I just feel it's gonna work out best. And I have a little bit left over that will not go to waste. I will sprinkle that on like some yogurt or something. As you see, I put it right there. It's not gonna go to the waste. So let's see what's next. I got my pan out. And there's the Kindle I mentioned. So here, this is where, oh, there's my basil. We're going to get to that in a minute. You got to have basil if you're going to be making pesto. What I'm doing right now is opening the window just a little bit. I do have a gas stove and I always vent when I use my stove. I've never had problems with my gas stove. I know some people are like, it's got to be gas or nothing else. And then there are some people like down with gas, it's the devil. I don't agree with any of those things. I like my gas stove. I think it works wonderfully. I don't think it takes that much effort to just crack a window when using it. And that's year round. Like it's really not that big a deal. So I am toasting the almonds because like I said, they are raw untoasted. I did leave the skins on. I used to put them like in jars and shake them to try to get the skins off, but there's so much nutritional benefit to the skins on the almonds. So I just keep them, but you can totally remove them or buy them already pre-roasted with the skins off if you want to do that. This is me adding in, I think that was a teaspoon of my hing spice. If you know, if you follow me, I can't have like onion and garlic. And so that's what I use to kind of mimic that flavor. And I do, because this is a raw sauce that isn't going to be cooked, I do like to activate that hing ahead of time, get it kind of aromatic before adding it. So it makes sense to put it in while I'm toasting the almonds. So that's what I'm doing. I'm basically toasting the hing and the almonds together so that they can go into this, you know, raw sauce, the pesto that I'm making. This is not traditional in any way whatsoever. I don't think I needed to say that, but just as a reminder, in case you are new here, I could make something a little bit more traditional if I wanted to, but because of my restrictions and my health needs, this is just kind of like my go-to now. So I'm gonna set that aside. It's all ready to go. And I heard something. It's like the vent, but it just, you know, anyway, it happens. So let's see what's next. I'm looking for something. What am I looking for? Oh, yes, it is time to clean and spin my substitute ingredient that I mentioned earlier. So a traditional pesto uses predominantly basil in the recipe. And I do like that basil flavor, but I'm always trying to increase the health benefits of my food as much as possible, especially because I have so many limitations. There's a lot of nutrients that I'm not getting. And so what you see me doing is breaking down some kale here. So in my book, when I come up with this recipe, I actually use spinach basil and spinach, but I actually do rotate basil and no, sorry, basil. I actually do rotate spinach and kale on a regular basis just because I like to have variety and the benefits of both of those. I don't want to just eat one and not the other. So this pesto recipe is one that I do that. And this just happened to be the week for kale instead of spinach. So here I am measuring out my salts. Now, I do use the Himalayan pink salt for most of my cooking. I do also have iodized table salt that I will use anytime that I'm baking. That's what I'm using. And so sometimes I have to decide, which I want to do here, there, wherever. For this particular recipe, which I think I'm using, I want to say this is half a teaspoon of the Himalayan pink salt. This is a very, savory recipe, so that's why I'm going with that for this. So I'm measuring it out, and so now I'm adding in the cracked pepper, same thing. I believe this is another half a teaspoon, and I could totally have these measurements wrong as I'm saying them out loud, but they'll be correct in the description below. But that's what I'm adding right here. I'm putting it into a larger thing and then measuring it out, because with those little grinders, it's hard to get accurate measures otherwise. Unless you know a method, please leave it in the comment, because this is how I've been doing it to make sure I do get a more accurate measurement. So now I'm pulling out some other herbs and spices. There's absolutely nothing traditional about turmeric in pesto, but I add it just because inflammation is a major concern with me in my health. And so this next thing that I'm adding is dried basil. So because, like I said, traditional pesto recipes, it's just basil that's going into it. And I'm actually doing a balance between basil and another green. Usually it's spinach, but as you can see today, I'm using kale. I don't want to lose out on that basil complexity. So I'm going to be using fresh basil. You can see there's a basil plant in the background, but to supplement some of that intense basil flavor, I do also include, I believe, a full either teaspoon or tablespoon, I can't remember, it'll be below, of the dried basil to help substitute some of that. So here I am picking off the leaves of this basil plant, and I'm going to do a packed cup of the basil. So I'm going to put as much as basil in there that I can. I'm going to pack it without it like starting to like wilt, or what I'm saying? Like I just want it to be at a place where I still feel like the leaves are vibrant enough, but I'm going to pack them in there tight to give me a full packed cup of the basil. Normally, I think if I was going to be making this in a more traditional way, I would be using 2 cups of the basil and none of the other greens. So for this one, I'm doing 1 cup of the packed basil and then 1 cup of the packed kale, which, like I said, you can also substitute spinach if you want to try this, if the kale flavor is too intense for you. But I alternate. It's just how I do things. So now I'm going to be adding nutritional yeast. And so just like the hing was a substitute for like maybe an onion garlic kind of flavor, the nutritional yeast is what I substitute for cheese. So a traditional pesto, you put Parmesan cheese in it. It's delicious. It's wonderful. But for, again, health reasons and things like that, I am going with nutritional yeast instead. I do still consume some dairy cheeses in extremely small quantities, but not very much, just because of my fat sensitivity. So the greens are going to go in first, and then I'm just going to kind of be sprinkling in the nooch as those get kind of ground down. And I do that to help form like a paste, help bring out some of the flavor before adding in some of the other ingredients. And so all of these spices were added to the kind of chopped up roasted almonds already. And so those are going to go in. And so this is another 4th cup measure. So I'm going to use a 4th cup of avocado oil. Again, in a traditional recipe, I would be using olive oil. And I could use olive oil, but again, for health reasons, if I am sticking with the avocado oil. And again, I'm only using about, I would say, a 1/4 of what the traditional recipe would call for. I think a more traditional pesto would call for half a cup of oil, for the amount that I'm making. I'm only going to use a 1/4 of a cup, and then I'm going to be replacing the rest with other liquids. So it's going to have more of like a creamy texture than a pesto traditionally has. But I'm okay with that. I like creamy. So I'm going to be drizzling in the oil at this point, helping it to like emulsify. And then in a moment, we'll see what other liquids. As you can see, I've been rolling a lime. And traditionally, pesto is made with lemon. I am sensitive to citrus, like in general. On a day-to-day basis, if I'm going to consume citrus, it's going to be small quantities of lime or orange. But I can't I can't drink it. I cannot drink lemonade. I cannot drink orange juice. I can have something like this in a small quantity. It's part of something else. I'm not going to sit down and drink a bottle of pesto, if that makes sense. So, oh, look, you saw me shake my hands. That's me going to wash my hands because that's how sensitive I am to it. With that said, I'm using lime juice in this recipe. I can and have used lemon in recipes, but I'm just very cautious and limited about how much I'm using when. So if I was going to do like a lemon pepper chicken, I would use real lemon because again, I'm not going to be like drinking lemonade. It's going to be part of that recipe. But for my go-to, it is oh, and so this I believe is some water that I've added to the recipe. You can see that it's kind of the color is lightening up a bit, it's getting a bit creamy. So I did add some water to help, thin out the sauce to the consistency that it should be, considering I didn't use the full amount of oil that is recommended. I'm just scraping down the sides. Let's see, is there anything that I'm missing with this? No, it looks like it's ready to come out. All right. So that is, like I said, the basics of my almond pesto spread. Substituted the kale for spinach that's in the book that I'm going to release. And yeah, I typically, you'll see me jarring this. I think I put it in two or three, I think two jars. Anyway, I do individual kind of like portions for this because it does have a pretty good shelf life, but it's not going to last forever. So I don't like to just leave it in the refrigerator indefinitely. If I know I'm not using it, it goes in the freezer. So one of these jars, I'll typically put it in the freezer and just kind of use it over a period of like two. Sometimes I can stretch it for 3 weeks. And so that will go on sandwiches, wraps, salads, eggs, whatever it is, I want. If, however, I know that we want to have like a pesto pasta, which we do sometimes, I'll take the two jars together. Now, that will typically be what we need to sauce the like a whole meal of like pasta. So it just depends on what it is I'm prepping for. So as you can see, I've got the two jars there. I think that's all of I was able to do for this. And one will go in the refrigerator and one will go in the freezer because I'm not planning on doing a pesto pasta anytime soon. Now we are going to start my dill salad chicken spread. So again, I mentioned before that I already have done a video of you see me using the spread to like make a tasty sandwich for lunch one day. And so this is me actually making the salad. So a lot of the meals that you will see me feature sometimes are vegan or plant-based. I am not vegan and plant-based, but I do make an effort to include more and more plants into my diet, especially with all like my health issues and things like that. So this one is not that. I mean, it has chicken in it, but you'll see me using a lot of plant-based substitutes just because health reasons and benefits and stuff like that. So we're going to start with flaxseed. And so I've got, I believe, a tablespoon of ground flaxseed that I'm going to put, 2 tablespoons. Oh, you know what? That might be a half tablespoon measure. Again, I'll have correct measurements in the description. And I'm running it through my spice grinder. That is fenugreek, I believe. Yeah, that's fenugreek. So that I put that in there with the flaxseed. I didn't have to, I just did. And so again, here's some turmeric. Again, just trying to help with inflammation. That is a very, very much concern for me. So anytime I can help with that, I do. Black pepper goes into pretty much everything that I eat that isn't a dessert. Not only because I like black pepper, but it helps me absorb some of the other ingredients. I think that was some dried parsley. Yeah. So all of that goes into the spice grinder, just shaking it up to make, it's gonna turn it into a nice ground herb flaxseed powder that's gonna go into this dish. And as you can see, I'm smacking it, trying to get it all to come into like the little lid. And most of it comes out. I just have to scrape a little bit of it. And so now the main ingredient, the dill, the fresh dill. And so I'm gonna tightly pack a cup for the dill that's gonna go into this recipe. So a tightly packed cup of fresh dill. And I am gonna add some kale to this as well. So again, this is another recipe that when I make it, I either use kale or spinach. Kale is what I had that week. And so that went into the recipe as well along with that mixture. I'm doing this to increase like my vitamin intake, my vegetable intake, my fiber intake. Like there's a reason why I'm doing all of this stuff, but I'm doing it in a way that it's going to taste good. It seems like a lot, but I figured out that this is what works for me. And here's my good old friend, nutritional yeast. This is like one of the stars of today's show, the kale and the nutritional yeast. That was not my plan. It's just how it worked out. And so again, just adding that to, which it's funny, I mentioned in the previous recipe that I was using the nutritional yeast as a substitute for the cheese. That's not what I'm using it for here. I'm actually using it for like it has, protein and fiber and it has other benefits to it. And I like the nutty flavor because I am going to put actual cheese in this recipe in just a moment. But here I am cutting up some store-bought rotisserie chicken. This is just 100% for ease and convenience. Most of the time when I do this recipe, I just take either chicken breast or chicken thighs from the store and bake them in my oven and shred it myself and do that. It's cheaper that way, but I was busy, so this is what we got. Both work. This has minimal ingredients on it, which is why I will do it when I'm in like a crunch or a bind. Yeah, so that's what's happening here. I'm just adding the chicken to it. And so I've already kind of blended the stuff in the Ninja a little bit, but I'm going to blend it up a little bit more. I just really want to kind of break this up. It's getting really thick as this is happening. So you'll see in a little bit that I'm going to add an ingredient to help thin it out. So what I'm going to be adding now is really what kind of holds this dill salad chicken spread together, and that is cottage cheese, but not just any cottage cheese. So this is reduced fat, lactose free cottage cheese. Again, I try to stick with as many plant-based products as I can, but I cannot deny the protein content of the cottage cheese. And with this flavor profile that I've put together, it actually works really well to use the real cottage cheese. I just have to make sure that it's reduced fat and lactose free. Yeah, and so that's what's going into it. That's going to really kind of hold it all together. Other chicken salads will use like mayo and things like that. This is very non-traditional. So we're going to mix that up. And as you can see, it's having some trouble. This is super thick. So I am going to be thinning it out here in just a bit. But I want to make sure everything is getting mixed up really nicely. Blitz that a little bit more. And you can see it's kind of struggling on the pulse there. Okay, so now this is where I'm going to add a 4th cup of my soy milk. And so again, I could totally use dairy milk if I wanted to, but I haven't done dairy milk in like a decade. So even though I still consume some dairy cheeses, there's no, I have chosen to use soy just because, again, of the protein content. I know a lot of people prefer almond milk, and I like almond milk too. There's just not a lot of protein in it. So for this, I did go with the soy. If you are soy sensitive and you wanted to do something like this, you should try pea milk. I had a bunch of family members over a while back for like my birthday, and I made some dishes that normally I would use soy milk for, and I used pea milk instead because my sister is soy sensitive. So now I'm just gonna portion these out. I have enough here to, I'm gonna put it over like 5 servings. This chicken salad, I would like for it to be more shelf stable than it actually is, but I guess because I'm not using a lot of the high fat ingredients, it just doesn't last as long as a more traditional chicken salad. So what I do now, because I've been testing this for a while, is I'll put it in these individual servings over, like I could have them 5 days a week if I wanted, but by doing these individual servings, if I decide I don't want to have one when it's not sitting in the fridge going bad. These are going to go in the freezer, and each night, if I say tomorrow I want to have chicken, I just take it out that night. So the next day it's thawed and ready to go. And so that's what you see me doing here is individually portioning out the dill salad chicken spread so that it will go in the freezer and last longer and only, be thawed out when it's needed. Yeah. So as you continue, to watch me kind of do that, that is the two kind of green recipes that I have for today. And that was not my plan. As you saw, there were some certain ingredients there that repeated themselves. We saw kale being used. Like I said, this was just a kale week. And that's pretty much how it is. 1 week is a kale week. 1 week is a spinach week. Sometimes if I get, because I use beets a lot, if I get a good batch of beets where the leaves are in good condition, because a lot of time beet leaves, they get like a blight on them or something like that, and you can't really use them. It's really disappointing. But when I do get a good set of beet leaves, I'll use those as greens also. Like I've put those into different like salads and things like that. So talk about that probably more later when I get to some of my curry recipes. But now that I'm mentioning it, I have a green curry and a yellow curry, which is just so funny to me. I'm currently working on doing a red. I say red because it's really more like orange, but that one is nowhere near ready to be presented. The green and the yellow curry, my husband and I have been eating off of those for about a year now. So I've gotten those down pretty good. But regardless, so this is basically, the recipe that I use on a regular basis to make my dill salad chicken spread, which goes along with the short that I released a few weeks ago for the sandwich that I made. And so, yeah, that's that. This is actually taking longer than I had expected. I feel like I'm rambling now trying to get through this. So, yeah, I wonder how much more of this do I have because I thought, man, good grief. You know what? We might need to stop it here. I think you guys kind of get the point. So I'm going to stop for a second and get to the end of this video. Oh boy. Well, that took longer than I would have liked to figure out what was going on there. So definitely gonna be some editing happening there. But anyway, so that was the food blog for this month. Hope it wasn't too boring. I am gonna put together, like I said, some updates for the Patreon community, just so that they know kind of what's going on with the I Wish I Could Eat That book. And yeah, I would love to know. Do you guys have any green sauces that you eat on like a regular basis? I didn't realize how many I had, but yeah, if there's a recipe you think I should try out, and it doesn't have to be like if you find a recipe and you know it has ingredients in it that I can't eat, that's okay. Go ahead and make that recommendation. Gotten really good at modifying recipes to suit my dietary restrictions, so I'm open to ideas. I recently made, oh, I got to share this real quick. I mentioned in my yay stuff video again for the Patreon community that I tried a new tofu recipe that I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but anyway, it was basically a sauce that the tofu was marinated in. The person that I got the idea from actually used chili peppers in her recipe, and I can't use chili peppers. So I pretty much followed her recipe to the T, except for that part. And instead of using chili peppers in the recipe, I used wasabi powder, which I was so excited to discover wasabi powder at my local grocery store because I don't really get to eat a lot of spicy stuff. And wasabi, in comparison to chilies, isn't really that spicy, but it is spicy for just like general terms. And so I was so excited to be able to do that. And it actually worked. Just wanted to throw that out there. So there's something else green. Can't believe it. What today? That's the theme of the day. Green is the theme of the day. So anyway, guys, love to know your thoughts on the green sauces. What are you eating? How's your health going? I hope things are going well for you. I got a whole lot of things happening that I'm trying to figure out. But regardless, I'm blessed. So I hope you guys are too. Stay safe and be blessed.
Hey, if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and also leave me a comment. I would love that. Okay.